What if the Phantom Ruby appeared in Sonic Movie 2 was a what if I made about 2.5 years ago, give or take. And since then, I kind of lost interest in the what if. It was on a bit of a cliffhanger though, so I feel like I should address what the plan for the what if was. In the final moments of this version of Sonic 2, after Robotnik is defeated in Labyrinth Zone by Sonic and Knuckles, the Phantom Ruby comes in contact with one of the interdimensional warp rings. The power of the Phantom Ruby, which in the games we know has the power to reach into other dimensions, when in contact with the warp ring, pulls a figure from another dimension. This being Blaze the Cat, from a version of the Soul Dimension. I should emphasize this isn't the Soul Dimension from the games, this is a movie equivalent, but pretty much the same deal. Like in the game canon, she's the princess of her dimension, and she's less than thrilled to have been pulled away from her people and brought into some alternate universe. She quickly takes the Phantom Ruby for her own, threatening Sonic, Knuckles, and Robotnik to stay out of her way, as she attempts to flee, but a desperate Robotnik grabs onto the Phantom Ruby, threatening the cat. There's a small back and forth before she quickly launches Robotnik across the room with her fire powers. But this interaction was enough to activate the Phantom Ruby once more, opening up a second portal, bringing another person from the Soul Dimension. Negative Robotnik. Yeah, they're not going to get away with calling him Eggman Nega. You know that just means negative, I know that just means negative. But with how many jokes people would make, yeah, it's better to just give him a different name in this movie universe. Just like in the actual Sonic 3, where Gerald is played by Jim Carrey, I'm sure this negative Robotnik would also be played by Jim Carrey. And just like the actual Sonic 3, I'm sure the writers would take full advantage of the comedic effects that can come from having two Jim Carreys in a scene. Throughout all the chaos, Sonic and Knuckles are befuddled about what to do about the situation, until the Robotniks attack Blaze with some device that Robotnik Negative had. Fight breaks out, something happens, and the Robotniks get away with the Phantom Ruby, although it is drained of its energy since it had just pulled two people from an entirely different dimension. It needs time to recharge. Sonic and Knuckles try to help Blaze, but she wants nothing from them as she flees the scene. From here, imagine a very loose adaptation of Sonic Rush. Now, this is where I don't have anything definitive written down, so here's just some bullet point ideas. Although Blaze is a consistent antagonist for Team Sonic throughout this film, it should be made clear that she is not a bad person, but instead that she simply has a heavy burden that she feels she has to carry alone. But throughout this adventure, she would finally come to realize that sometimes you don't have to face things alone. Sometimes you can have friends to help you out. Speaking of, I think it would be interesting if you really lean into that idea that Blaze is the counterpart to Sonic. It's never directly made clear in the games if she's literally a Sonic counterpart or if she just plays a similar role. But if we lean into that aspect, what if she has a similar backstory to Sonic in the movie universe? Obviously, it's not one-to-one. I mean, Sonic isn't a prince. Well, except for in that one cartoon. But what if Blaze lost her parents in a similar way that Sonic lost Longclaw? Maybe that's why she's the active ruler despite being merely a princess. Just like in the official movies, I'm sure Sonic would connect to Blaze over this in a similar way to how he connected to Shadow and Knuckles. Oh, and one more bullet point, they should come across either the Chaos Emeralds or the Soul Emeralds at some point during this adventure, so we can have a battle where Super Sonic and Burning Blaze go up against whatever dastardly machine Robotnik and Robotnik Negative built using the Phantom Ruby, destroying the gemstone once and for all, and allowing Blaze to return to her dimension. But not before she gives the heroes a fond farewell, especially Sonic, for showing her that she doesn't always have to carry her burden alone. They shake hands before she disappears into the wind. Sane's fans rejoice, I guess. Like I said, this is a what if that I kind of lost interest in, but I thought I would still give you guys the bullet points so you can come up with your own idea of how this story would have ended. Again, these are just bullet points. Feel free to imagine your own ending for this story. Anyway, I'm ComicFan13, and this is definitely not the first what if of 2025. This totally isn't. Okay, it kind of is, but can we just pretend that What If Tales Became Infinite Part 11 is the first big what if for this year? I mean, it just feels more meaningful with how long that series has been going on for and the amount of build-up. Anyway, I'm ComicFan13, and welcome to 2025. We have a lot planned this year.